So any question, or we can continue, or any contribution?
So let's continue.
All right. So we want to look at the scope of the review. When we say the scope, I'm sure we all understand. To what extent that your literature review is going to cover. So all of those things must also be clearly defined. And in doing that, you consider the following questions. How many years back should you set? And what we mean is that the publications that you are going to use for your review, or the works that have been done by other people already, how many years back do you want to see? And in academia, it's encouraged that material that are older than 10 years are not good enough. There have been new knowledge already. So if you are reviewing and you are using material that are older than 10 years, in most cases, it's not acceptable. However, there are some concepts, some definitions that have been done for over the years, and it's a reference point for everybody. When you quote those one or you reference those one, nobody asks you any question. And one of them is, for example, the definition of health. That's been done by World Health Organization in 1947. Everybody, or all of us today, are still using the same definition. So there are some of the definitions that clearly you see that the, how do you call it, the people who are there, or those who have put out those information, they are gone, and it is long overdue, but still you see us using the same how do you call it, references, because we have realized that they are still relevant. There are methods that have been discovered. There are theories that have been propounded for so many years now, but you and I know it is 50 years, whatever, but they are still useful. So based on that, we go ahead and also conduct and use the same materials for our reviews. So how many years in our academia as students, I will encourage you that all the material that you are searching and you want to use, they should not be more than what? 10 years when it comes to literature review. Because when it is more than 10 years, we assume that there might be other new knowledge that have already come up. So after 10 years, there's no need for you to repeat the same thing as part of your work. So it is always, it's always advisable that you switch yourself or limit yourself to what? 10 years papers. Is that okay? Then we also talk about what literature should you search. As for this, there are many of the issues that you have to consider. After the years that you are talking about, you must also look at the kind of, and that kind of literature, we have so many of them. We have the primary resources, we have the secondary sources, and we have what? The gray literature. So you must tell yourself, what kind of literature are you looking at? Are you looking at the secondary? Are you looking at the primary sources, or you are looking at the gray sources? So you must also decide what literature you should also search, and then the database that also come along with it. Then you also look at how many articles do you need for an adequate review. Articles, it depends on your level. So most of the time, you look at what exactly you are doing, whether 20 articles review will be okay, or 30 article reviews will be okay for your work, or 100 article review.
Evans, Foster, please mute your microphone. Evans, Foster, please mute your microphone.
So you must always look at all of these things when you are doing your literature review. So I can't tell you right now that if you have reviewed 10 literature or publications, it's okay for your work. But most of the time, it depends on what you are doing, your level of study. For example, a diploma student writing a project work or first degree, if you're able to review 20, 25, 30 articles, or let's say 20 for your research, it is well appreciated. That one is good enough. Your master's, 40, 50, in this region is fine. By your PhD, we expect that your reference alone should be more than 10 pages in some cases. So we expect that you do a lot of work. So I can't tell you that you should do this, but at first degree level, if you're able to review good quality articles, 20, 25, that is also good enough. However, there are cases where there are some articles you are only looking at only a theory. So you cite that category once because of the theory, not because of the publications that are there. In that cases, we expect that we will have a lot of articles coming up as part of your review, more than 20, 30 thereabout. And that is important for you to also identify. So basically, you must consider all of this. The years back, I already told you that in your literature review at this level or academia, what I know is that it should not be more than 10 years. Even when you are doing clinical and all those things, we even spent 5 years. But in the standard procedure is that your review or your article that you are going to review, they should not be more than what? 10 years. So this is 2021. When you are reviewing articles, it should be working from 2011, 2012, 13 upwards. We are not expecting you to see 2010, 9, 8, and thereabout. No. However, I also said that if it's a theory, it's been a definition. That's even 1940. You can go ahead and reference that because that is the person who propounded the theory, and that was the year that the theory was propounded. And that theory is still relevant to what you are doing. And you have to go ahead and cite that and reference. And when you after reading, you reference that particular article that you have actually used in the writing of your research. Then the kind of material or literature you should search. We know that we have primary, there we have the secondary, we have a good literature, and also the sources that the database that you have to search and all that. So all of those things are also things that you have to consider. And then finally, looking at how many articles, which I've mentioned that there are no limitations for now. So there's how many years back, as I was saying, articles that are more than 10 years old are not worth reviewing. So if you have articles that are more than 10 years, it's something that we say that no, it's overdue. There's no need for you to continue with that. It is not something that is well accepted in academia. After 10 years, we say that there are new developments, there are new knowledge that has come. So why are we still sticking to over 10 years articles? No, we expect you to be able to come out with a new ones, that are recent publications out there. But in some areas too, we call them virgin areas. A lot of work has not been done in those areas. So sometimes you must be able to even review those that are more than 10 years. And there's some concept and theory that, as I mentioned earlier. Then moving also look at the recent or current articles provide a better understanding of the research problem. So when you look at current articles or recent articles that have been published, it gives you a better understanding of the issues. For example, if you are talking about HIV about 10 years ago in Ghana or 20 years ago in Ghana, the case is different from how it is now. Now there's what? ART that people are using. So people who are HIV positive, you cannot identify them. But when you are referring to articles that have been written about 20 years ago, when there was no drug for them to use, and they all grew lean. So you said that if you see somebody who grew lean or somebody who is lean, that means the person is HIV. If you want to use those figures today, or those features today, to identify somebody who is HIV positive, if you don't take time, you have a score you wouldn't know. Because people who are HIV positive, because they are taking the drug, they look fine, they look nice, even than those of us who are not sick. So things have changed. That's what we are saying, that how recent or how new the article is, that also gives you better understanding of the research problem than something that will be done 10 years ago.
Mommy, can stop from from.
All right.
Mommy,
Kindly mute your
Madam.
microphone. Emilia, please mute your microphone.
Wow.
Then we can also look at what literature should you search. It should be based on the purpose of your study and then objectives. The objectives that you have for your study and the purpose will also let you know the kind of the search or the material that you need to search. So the literature that examines the research problem. So your literature review or the topics that you have and you want to study or the objectives of the study will tell you that look for material that have publication on so and so. If your objectives are to find solutions to anemia, then you are going to look at materials that talk about anemia and the interventions of anemia. So your objectives, your topics will actually determine the kind of the literature that you are going to search and work on. So it is very important that your objectives are clearly stated, because that is going to guide you on what and what material you should also search, so that your literature will actually have something to do. You must always have something to do for the research problem that you are trying to solve. Then how many articles do you need? As many as you can provide. You must have justification, rationale for your research. And I already told you that there is no limitation, but it also depends on the level that you are and what you are studying at that time. So the articles that you need, I said at this level for your literature review, 2025 first degree is enough to carry you through. But there are areas or various stages that you get when you do that. Everybody say you are lazy and you not even your research may not even pass because of the work that you have done. So these are the domains that you also have to consider in your literature review. Then we also have to look at the types and the sources of literature for your review. We have the types and then the sources. So for the types of literature should be reviewed. One, it is also important to decide what to read and what to include in your review. And you cannot do that in a vacuum. You must look at your objectives, research topic. These are the things that are going to actually tell you exactly what you are going to do. So it is always important that you identify these issues and then try and as much as possible that you have reviewed properly before you go ahead and conduct your research. So it is important. Don't go and read everything. That because you are working on malaria, anything where you see malaria inside, you are reading. When you are doing that, you'll not be able to do a proper research. Let your objectives that you have set out, your topic help you to be able to do all of those things. Then when we talk about the types, I already mentioned primary sources of literature. It is the most reliable information to include. When we say the primary source is that, for example, our class rep, Nick, has conducted a research and he has published his findings. He's the one who conducted that research and went to the field to interview people or to collect data. He's the one who has gone to the field to collect data. He's the one who has done analysis. And when he published that, those are the primary sources we are talking about. And it is the most reliable because I am the one who has collected the data. So I know what and what I have included. And it is from the data that I have collected. So we are saying that those ones are most reliable. And then these are also research reports written by the researchers themselves. The report that is written by the researcher himself, somebody who has conducted the research, we are saying that those ones are most reliable than those ones that somebody have done the research and published. Somebody has also done the secondary study on the same thing and is reporting that as a second person. Those ones are not most reliable when we are conducting your literature review. Those are the one we are referring to as our secondary sources. They are research documents written by someone other than what? The original researcher. So for example, Nick has conducted a research. And then we call something what? Systematic analysis or meta-analysis. This systematic analysis, they don't go to the field to collect data. They don't collect any new data. They look at the research that people has already conducted on malaria over 10 years period or 5 years period, and try to review all of them and see what the central team, all of them are reporting. What are the methodology that they use to conduct their research? So that's what they do when it comes to what? Systematic review or meta-analysis. So when you are doing your literature review using those studies, we refer to them as what? Secondary sources. And most of them sometimes they are not reliable as compared to what? Primary sources, because they are also reporting somebody's finding. And when you are reporting somebody, you can't report the person absolutely like the way he has reported his finding. So there are always gaps. There are some uncertainties surrounding all of them. So when you are doing your review and relying on secondary data, we are saying that they are not much useful. However, when you want to use it, then they should be more recent or current. That's what we are also saying, that if you want to include them, they should be recent. That's the second point. If you want to include them, try as much as possible to be able to what? Include the recent ones, so that will make a big contribution to your findings than to try to review articles that are 10 years, meanwhile they are secondary sources. No, it's not advisable to do that. Then the secondary source is usually not considered objective. The reason why we say that most of the time it's not considered objective is that you are reporting somebody. You are reporting the findings of somebody. And sometimes people do not come out for objectivity when they are reporting others. So that can compromise the objective or the objectivity of whatever you are doing. So as much as possible, try and avoid the secondary sources when you are doing your literature review. And I told you can identify the secondary sources and then the primary sources. The primary source, we are saying that you see the one who conducted the research, the primary researcher. He has gone to the field to collect data. He has reported how he has collected his data and all of that. But the secondary one, they will tell you clearly that it was a review that we have done. It was meta-analysis that we have done. It was systematic review that we have done. So clearly that tells you that they are not the primary conductors of that research. And that's what should also be clear in your mind. The other sources that are also relevant, depending on the print sources for literature review, is now obsolete. These days, we don't use books. Most of the time, we don't use books, daily graphics, or print papers to do what? Your review. There are lots of data online. So you must try as much as possible to avoid using books to do your literature review or printed materials. It's very tedious to do that. However, when you go to online, the data is there. You see a lot of information online. So there's no need for you again to try as much as possible to come out and use books. When are you going to read? Rewrite in your own words before you type. But when it is online, you just online, you are reading already. You can just go ahead. Sometimes you cut and go and change them into your own words. So it is always important that you consider all of those things when you are doing your literature review. It is very important that those when they are obsolete, so you try as much as possible to do away with them. It is not the best when you use books and all that. It's most of the time delay your time and all that. So you must try as much as possible to do that. So it is very important to do that. Then the following are also sources of literature, source or the source of your literature. That is gray literature. So who can tell us what gray literature is? What is gray literature? Anybody? Anybody can tell us Grey literature? Grey literature. Are you with me? Or I'm the only one here?
No, sir. It refers
So
to a research that either hasn't been published or one that has been published, but is not as popular as the I mean other ones that have been published that have gained popularity.
okay, any other? Yes. Any other? Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh. Nobody? Grey literature. Okay, when we talk about grey literature is the research that have been conducted and yet they have not been published where people have a lot of access to that information. That is grey literature. For example, you have done, some of your seniors, they have conducted a study and they have not published it. So that information is limited. It's not a lot of people that have that information, just like the one who's talk about it first said. So when you talk about grey literature, they are unpublished research reports. There are a lot of unpublished research reports that you can see at the how do you call it, at the libraries or database. Most of the time they are not published, so you can't see them in the, how do you call it, the database that we have, but you can see them in your department, your HOD's office. It is there with your HOD, your seniors, you can contact them and have access to the information, and you are part of a research that has been conducted, and you see that the findings that they are not yet published, you can also use those ones and to support your argument. So it is always important that you also include grey literature. Grey literature is very important because it makes your work look nice, and then it is very important that you use these materials to add value, because the information that you are sharing with us, it is not everywhere. It is limited because it has not been published for other people to have access to. You can also set electronic database, and there are some electronic database that we look at. These are some of the examples of the electronic database that we have. When you go to what we call Hinari, oh, who is this? Well, there's one we call Hinari, the cumulative index to nursing and allied health literature. So when you go to electronic data called Hinari, you see a lot of nursing publication and allied health literature in that particular database. However, most of these databases we are talking about, if you have, your institution is not or did not subscribe to them, it will be very difficult for you to have access to the papers in there. It is very difficult to have access to the papers. So your university, your institution must subscribe to what? This literature to help you to be able to what? Access them. So that is also important that you have to look at. The Medline is also about medical literature online. Medical literature online. So if you take your phone, you Google Medline, you see there. And any topic that you are looking for, you enter, you see them popping up for you to see. Then you also have the Hinari. The first one is Sinahi. Then the second, the third one, which is a Hinari, you can also go there and put whatever you are looking for. But I said that some of these, if your institution did not subscribe to it, it will be very difficult for you to have access to them. As for the Google Scholar, it is there for all of us, free of charge. It is there, Google Scholar. when you go to, most of the time, the reason why you don't get, most of you just go and search Google. But when you go to Google, just now you get a Google, just enter Google Scholar. Then it's also pop up. Then you click on it, it's open. And when you put the research topic there, you see a lot of them popping out for you. I use Google Scholar a lot because you don't pay anybody. Even if your institution does not subscribe to Google Scholar, you can use to get a lot of materials to do your work. As for Science Direct, if your institution does not subscribe to, you don't even try because you will not get access to it. So these are some of the electronic database. When you go there, you say you are looking for literature. They are there in millions. So sometimes students say that we don't have literature. I told you just go to Google Scholar and enter your topic. There are a lot of literature that is there at this level that you not even be able to exhaust all of them. So it is important to search and get this kind of information that you are looking for to support your work. So these are some of the sources that you can actually use when you are looking for your literature. Any question about them? Hello.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I want to ask if there is some similarities between the background and the literature review.
If it says similarity, what does that mean? Or what exactly do you mean?
When you are doing the background, it's as if you review some literature work there.
Yes.
In the literature review as well. That's what I'm asking whether there's some
exactly. No, but in the beginning, I said that you must read so that I can have a fair idea of what you are doing. And that is also a review. It's also literature review, just for your writing of your introduction. What people has done, what have been the findings, what especially from the world level to Africa and all that. Yes. So when you are doing your background study, you also do some kind of literature review. That you have to read about your topic so that you can have the information and be able to write your background and problem statement. So that one is true that you must read. That's when you are doing research or you're conducting research, you must continuously read and you even become tired. Reading morning, afternoon, evening to get the facts. So that when you speak, people want to challenge you, you can quote and support whatever you are saying. And that also exonerates you. Also to demonstrate your scholarly ability. So yes, when you are doing the background, you have to read. Every level, you have to read.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Then we also have some stages that are involved in a review. There are stages that you have to go to. The review must be comprehensive and thorough. You don't just do anything. It will be thoroughly done, very comprehensive. You must cover all the objectives, all the research questions that you set out. Your review must cover all of them, and that shows that yes, you have done a good job. Must incorporate up-to-date references. Up-to-date references must be included in your literature review. Be creative and diligent about what to search. Some people, they just go and see, some people, anything that is online, they think is correct. And sometimes you see students referencing Wikipedia for you. Please, when you are conducting research at this level, you are not supposed to use what? Wikipedia as a referencing point. Anybody can go to Wikipedia and put any nonsense there. So those of you who have been using according to Wikipedia, please stop it. So be diligent, be creative, and whatever you are doing should be in line as an academic, because what you have to know is that in research, everything that you are doing, especially when you put it online, tomorrow it will back at you. When you have not done it properly, tomorrow people will say, this is what you have done. Look at this shoddy work that you have done. It's not the best. So you must take time, be creative, especially in the choice of your words that are very creative in describing the event or the issue that you want to. You must look at them critically. And then we are saying that up to date, your references to come with the date. The date is very important of your references. Your references should be indicated and must be up to date. You don't put there without the year. You put the name there, for example, according to Tamekulu, the year does not come. What are we looking at? So your references must be up to date. It is very important. Then the review must be what? Systematic. The criteria for including articles must be clear. Are you including every article about that topic? No, you should be limited by what? Your objectives and the research question. Sometimes you might want to limit yourself to African continent. You don't want to look at studies that have been done in India, Europe, America, and all that. You want to limit yourself to what? The scholars or the things that are done in Africa. So all the terms and references must also be created so that anybody who is looking at your work knows where you are coming from. So sometimes students are working. That's why most of the time when you are copying, you are easily caught. Somebody have done a study in Sudan and use a lot of writers in Sudan, use examples in Sudan, and you in Ghana, you are copying the same person, repeating all those examples. The lecturers or your supervisor will be, why this? And the moment they do small search, they will grab you. They know that you have copied somebody's work, which you all say that is what? Plagiarism. All decision rules must be what? Documented. Any review that we are doing, that's why from the beginning, introduction of the literature review, you said that this section covers literature review, and these are the things that you are going to look at. The definition of anemia, causes of this. So all indicates all of those things, so that when the person is reading, you know that these are the things that he or she is likely to find in the various stages that are involved. Then the review must not include any biases. Sometimes some of you are so biased towards some ethnic groups, even though you have not read about them, but you know that, oh, these people, they like fighting. So even though nobody has indicated that these people like fighting in that particular review, because you yourself, you have already have a stereotype about those people. You said, oh, these people like fighting. For example, in Ghana, we also say, oh, the Ghana people, they are people who like fighting too much, or they like fight. So going forward, we are reading an article that is published by the Ghana person. It was done among the Ghana people. Even though the person have not talked about fights, you go ahead and say, he's indicate that the Ghana people like fighting. Meanwhile, the person have not said that. That's the bias. The another area that we see the bias has to be for gender. Some people are so biased towards the women, and others are also biased towards the men. So when it happens like that, you end up introducing biases into your literature review, which is also unacceptable. Then you also look at must work hard so that you minimize those biases that we are talking about. Sometimes the peer review, your colleagues and your supervisors may also help you to check the biases introduced by the researcher. Sometimes when you are done the work, allow your peers or your colleagues to read your work, to tell you areas that you have done well and areas that you have not done well. However, it's not everybody who is even know what you are doing. So you must select the friends properly, those who actually understand what you are doing. Because there are others that they themselves, they don't even know what you are doing. So when you ask those people to read and review for you and tell you your pitfall or the areas that you haven't done well for you to correct, you don't have any proper feedback from them. But identifying individuals who are okay, who are on point in conducting their research, and you know that they know what they are about, allow them to read your work, and then they will tell you the mistake that you have made and be able to resolve them. And also your supervisors, let your supervisors also check and they read, they can come back to you and say that, no, you have introduced some biases and you need to go back and change all of that. Then you must also think creatively about the opportunities for new sources of information. There are so many sources of information. These days, you can even reference what? The news on Joy. You can reference the news on GBC. You can reference even workshop, what somebody said at workshop. You can reference the person. You can reference a chancellor or your vice chancellor who's speaking on occasion. The things that they use, the figures. Excuse me. You can use them as what? Your reference. So be creative in a way that you reference people these days. It is very important that you come out with a creative ideas when you are doing your references and all that. Then the review should continue until a good justification for the research is made. Sometimes you do this review, you send it to your lecturer, will just draw a line through that this thing is not correct. Don't get angry because it has not met the standard that they are looking for. So you continue to read it sometimes 3-4 times before you tell words. What you have done now is on point. Then you can continue. So it is always important that you do diligence, you continue until you get to a state that everybody say, yes, this is a good work. Then you can go ahead and stop. Writing the literature review, first you must also ask to be organizing the review. Develop an outline to structure a logical flow of ideas. And I already mentioned that in the beginning introduction, you talk about things that are going to be part of your literature review so that everybody who read the introduction know what and what is involved. So the outline will tell you the main themes that you are looking at, and even the sub-themes or the subheadings, the sections that you have in the literature review. All of these are part of the organization. So you must organize your work properly. Let us know the themes, the major themes that you'll be looking at. Let's look at the sub-themes. Let's identify the sections that are coming up. Let's look at the subheadings, the major headings and all that. Let all of them be indicated so that we can discuss and indicate the order of your presentation, which one comes first and which one follow, and which one is going to be the last one. Then the content of the written literature review should have the following. When you have the content of your literature review, you should have the following: a well-organized synthesis of what is currently known about the problem. Tell us what is already known about the problem, what has been documented about the problem already. Then the review should also be summarized in your own words. I already spoke about this extensively. Don't go and copy what others have said. Don't use their own words. Use paraphrase. If you are using the words of the people, please, you must put them in inverted commas. Inverted comma, or put it in what? Inverted commas. So that everybody will know what exactly we are talking about. That shows that you have copied somebody or you have copied somebody's work and you are referencing. So when you are copying the people, let them know that you are copying. So the referencing of that is also different from what you are paraphrasing. And then 2, the review should be summarized in your own, as I've said already. Then the 3rd one, the review should be what? Objective. Study that do not support or have nothing to do with malaria. Why do you go and talk about them? You are talking about malaria. Now you are reviewing articles that are on diabetes. Meanwhile, diabetes has nothing to do with what you are doing. So that is not good enough. Then include or conclude with a summary of the main findings. What have you found in the literature review? What are things that you have found in the literature review? Conclude with those ones. And also identify the gaps that exist in your literature review. And I'm sure if you're able to do this, you will do a very good job. Any question? We will soon go out and then we'll log in finally and finish. Any questions so far about all that we have said about literature review?
Elisha, kindly mute your microphone. Thank you.